technology is something that we're still trying to get our head around, and we have gotten our head around it. Assalamu alaikum, Zafar Saab. Thank you for joining us, and I'm going to get off stage.
जी thank you very much. बहुत शुक्रिया मोहसिन, बहुत शुक्रिया गालिब साहब, to the PNM entire team for inviting me and giving me this opportunity. I've been asked to talk about financial inclusion, relationship between commercial banks and microfinance sector and BOP's role therein. I've also been asked to cover a couple. To also cover the aspects of the challenges that public sector CEO faces in transforming an organization, and also lastly I'll speak about a unique experience of mine about the learnings of an air crash survivor. On the initial topics, the part one of my talk today. You have been hearing about it from very competent speakers over the last 2 days. I would not spend much time on it. I will rather focus on the two unique learnings of mine, which I think could do some benefit to all of us here. Rather than talking about benefits of financial inclusion, which we all are aware and sold on, and it would be like preaching to the converted. I would quickly jump to sharing with you how we are approaching it at BOP. We have divided financial inclusion agenda at the back of course, digital offering that the MC was also talking about, in 4 distinct constituencies. The first being financial inclusion, geographic inclusion. What we have done is that we have come up with this idea of having sunrise branches. These sunrise branches exist in those areas where there are no other bank represented. And we're very proud to share with you that we have all 120 branches in sunrise branches, which is 20% of our total portfolio. Then the second one is the gender inclusion. Offering specific products like NAS for women, and another product which perhaps we are the only financial institution which is offering in the industry for transgender, called Musawat program. NAS, I believe that without women inclusion, the sustainable financial and economic growth is impossible. Then we comes to product specific inclusion. There are certain products that are specific to attracting a particular segments of the society which are currently excluded from financial inclusion. That includes Mazdoor card, for example. That includes low-cost housing. And we're very proud that we took the lead on LDSCT project, which is one of its kind project whereby the government is contributing towards the equity, a part of the equity on behalf of the borrower. Then farm credit, of course. Without agriculture, we can't go anywhere. We've done an internal research whereby we have tried to prove that with the forward and backward linkages, the impact of the agriculture sector directly and indirectly overall on the economy is 46%. Although directly it's around 20%, but indirectly it's around 46% all put together. That's a substantial number, and it gives the importance that this sector has. BOP is recently been rated by State Bank of Pakistan as #2 bank in agriculture and promoting credit in agriculture in the entire banking sector. In our category of banks, we were #1. Then, of course, the program that we are all very well aware of, called Kamyab Pakistan program and Kamyab Jawan program, which is now being evolved as Prime Minister Youth Business Program. This program, as you are all aware, and I will not delve too much into this, was also part and parcel of our effort to promote, youth inclusion. And through KPP, we try and achieve all those elements that we talked about earlier in terms of bringing people together in partnership with the microfinance sector. Number 4 is social inclusion, my favorite. In social inclusion, we have partnered with the government of Punjab through Punjab Social Protection Authority, and we've offered some unique products there, and with amazing names, nomenclatures. So, for example, one of the products called Bahimat Buzurg. These are those people who are unable to work now; they've retired from their lives, and there is a stipend which is given to them by the government on a monthly basis. My personal favorite is Zevre Talim, where the school-going girls are given a conditional cash transfer on achieving 75% attendance in their schools. Very important. That's the future of our country. That's the future of Pakistan. A host program. This is funded by the World Bank, whereby it will help in mitigating the risk of stunting in the newly born. Sila Fun. This is for the artists across the section, including the painters, singers, performing arts, who are now retired and do not have much of financial support, are also given a stipend by the government on a monthly basis. Hum Kadam is another program for differently abled people to support them in setting up their own businesses, their own livelihood. And this program, by the way, all these programs are all on digital wallet, and they're all are technology driven. So from an efficiency standpoint, from a delivery standpoint, they're very efficient programs. Last but not the least is the community inclusion. And I think the MC also talked about it on the low-cost housing piece. I'll cover it here. I was specifically asked by Mohsin to talk about Heritage Foundation and what we are doing with them in the flood-affected areas, involving our employees. But before I talk about Heritage Foundation, I would first like to cover the Sadaqah Jariya offering, where we have tied up with TCF for education of school-going girls. And we have opened up all our digital channels and physical channels for contribution there. And whatever we will generate from there, we will provide a matching support to that as Bank of Punjab. And we had also roped in for Sadaqah Jariya the offering for Indus Hospital and also for Hood Foundation. Now coming to the Heritage Foundation. Heritage Foundation is a very unique project. We had adopted a village in interior Sindh, in Mirpur Khas, in July, and the idea was to develop these sustainable housing there, very small houses, which will be constructed by the women themselves through bamboo and the indigenous mud. And that housing will, and that village then will also develop an ecosystem which will be climate friendly and which will create the livelihood for the women there, particularly focusing on women. Now, interestingly enough, and I'm very proud to share with you that we aim to have 100 houses there, and we completed 70 houses before the flood happened, and these houses remained unaffected. They withheld the entire flooding, although the floods had affected the peripheries, the neighboring villages, but the housing here remained unaffected. a huge consolation and encouragement for us. Within that village, obviously, there has certain damages. People have lost their livelihood and all, and we are working in reviving that. We have now dovetailed that with our program, an employee program, because we believe that in this flood rehabilitation and reconstruction program, it is not just the funding that is important. In fact, if you ask me, funding is the last thing that we needed to be worried about, because the kind of response that we're getting from the international community and the local community, I think that will come through. But it's the capacity and the skill set, it's the number of hands, it's the support that is required physically on the ground by our people in helping those people in reconstruction and then rehabilitation. So we have launched a program called BOP Madadgar for our employees, whereby we are giving them paid leave to go and work on this on helping the communities around them who are affected by the floods for their revival. So we're starting with Rujhan in southern Punjab first. Puno village we are already working on, and then we are now going after that to KP and Balochistan as well as the next step. Very proud of that project, and this is something which has recently been covered by the international press also. CNL also covered it, and we would encourage, the other financial institutions to also come forth and look at our model and then replicate it in their own constituencies as well. There is an element of, by the way, we have, with Heritage Foundation, we've created this pool of fund, which will extend. There is no donation there, by the way. Huh? These are all interest-free loans that we're extending to the women in that area, so that they will pay back that money, and then that money will be recycled for developing developing their livelihood and creating a better ecosystem in the villages that they're living. Something which is very important, and I think is, as I talked about earlier as well, it's critical that we work with people and help them to catch fish rather than giving them the fish. Now, the second topic that I was asked to cover, and I'll quickly go over them, is how can we have a better relationship between the commercial banks and the microfinance sector? So it's really a two-way traffic. And I'll start out with what and how the commercial banks should view the microfinance sector. The commercial banks must realize that in the fruit chain, it's important that we nurture the microfinance sector, because that will create the customers for us in the future. The microfinance sector is vital for financial inclusion and green economy, alleviating poverty, and raising entrepreneurial mindset, which is very important for developing the businesses of the future, which will fall under our domain as commercial institutions later on. To us, this sits at the heart of BOP being being a responsible and socially conscious organization, which is forward-looking. Then we have to build dedicated teams. Commercial banks have to have dedicated teams who develop relationships with the industry stakeholders and try and understand the dynamics of the microfinance business. Until and unless we achieve that, we will not be able to make a headway and appreciate that business. And I think this is where we are going wrong. Because what is happening is that, we try and tackle the microfinance business as either an FI business or DFI business or a commercial business or a corporate business. This is not. This is a very unique offering, and we must develop that expertise within our force to make sure that we will be able to capitalize on this very important sector, and then develop the customers for us for the future. Within the commercial banking space, also we need to have more better collaboration. So the banks need to work together and develop syndication and jointly develop products and services which are critical for their clients, microfinance customers. As the classical example is the KPP. And we are currently working with the government of Punjab also to come out with a similar offering. Then, the next one, very important, is to create the specialized tools to measure and monitor the risk. We cannot judge microfinance using tools designed for conventional entities. The banks need to evolve their own risk matrix, and then which will help in better gauging and monitoring exposure to the industry. मुझे पानी देना है यार. On the other hand, microfinance industry needs to reciprocate in the same manner as well. There is definitely more need for transparency. So microfinance industry, although has a rich history, but the corporatization and it's becoming more organized started in early 2000s. I would very strongly propose greater transparency in their disclosures to their peers and to their partner banks. And then adopting technology. Again, I know that you are all convinced on it, but I just still wanted to make it a point that perhaps more is required to be done in this space. And we know the benefits of it, and we need to focus on it and make sure that, more cost-effective, better collaboration will result in creating a better credit profile for their customers as well, which will give the comfort to the commercial banking sector also to take chances on microfinance sector. Another very important point to my mind is there shall be no shortcuts, please. We have witnessed in the past that there has been instances where some of the players have become overly aggressive, and that resulted in losses. I think we need to be very clear that there has to be a measured approach to growth and a long-term view. This will help in better risk management while ensuring sustainability over the long term. Focus towards specialization is another very important element. The pie is so big as far as the microfinance business space is concerned that there is no point fighting over the same customers and businesses. We need to create expertise product-wise and geographically, so that we'll be able to cover a larger portion of the market and then deliver on it in a more efficient and effective manner. Last but not the least is the alignment of the business plans of microfinance sector with the government priorities. The fact of the matter is that the biggest challenge for microfinance sector is the access to concessional funding. And that concessional funding, unfortunately, with the interest rates remaining high, is very important, will only come with the support of the government. So therefore, it's very critical that the microfinance sector align itself with the requirements of the government and then develop the products and offer the services which fits in well with the government's overall scheme of things. I have huge respect for BISP type initiatives, but frankly speaking, and there is an argument that that breeds inefficiency and laziness in the society, and perhaps microfinancing is a better way, at of course reasonable rates, to capitalizing on the government exchequer for creating a larger impact and at a larger landscape. So to accomplish that alignment, the product offering shall be in line with the government priorities, as I mentioned earlier. Now, let's move on to the part two of my talk today, which has two parts. First part is the tips that I would like to share with you for transforming a public sector entity into a high-performing entity. अच्छा, एक तो मैं आपको बड़ा clearly ये बता दूं कि working for a public sector entity is not short of a jihad. It's really a jihad. जिस किस्म के हमारे ऊपर pressures होते हैं और unnecessary pressures होते हैं, unproductive pressures होते हैं, not only on the political side or the bureaucratic side, but more so from the law enforcement agencies and their lack of understanding of the nature of the businesses that these these public sector businesses are involved in. It really needs a very strong heart. It really needs a lot of support from your friends and family to be working for a public sector entity. So let me share with you 4 or 5 key things that are important for to achieve a transformation, impactful transformation in a public sector entity. Number 1 is that the chief executive is not supposed to fall in love with his job. Autonomy, authority, clout can often, cloud one's judgment and distract from tackling the pressing issues. Although that shouldn't be the case, but a lot of autonomy is vested in the CEO and the management by very nature of these businesses, because in most of the cases the CEO is appointed directly by the government, while the board becomes sort of a conduit in the middle. So therefore, the CEO of a public sector entity has much more powers than it's supposed to have, and it's very important that he does not fall in love with his job, because that's where the compromises start and when the political pressure comes through. So it is vital for the leadership to remain grounded with a high degree of situational awareness regarding organization, its current position and trajectory. The second one is that there has to be an element of self-accountability. So the CEO, which is there, has to make sure that he will not compromise on what happened, whatever happens on his whatever pressure come his way, which could potentially impact the fabric of the organization. Because this is very important. The moment you will start compromising on the organization's fabric, this is where the problem starts. And that should not be the case in any manner. Number 3, the CEO must get the buy-in, and this is, to my mind, is the most important. The starting point is that the political leadership must have a resolve to not only fix the entity, but let it work as well, and respect the boundaries of the management, and in fact defer to on the important aspects, on the professional aspect to the management, and do not interfere unnecessarily or second guess the management's judgment. If they're not happy with the management, remove them. But if the management is doing good, if they're doing their job and the results are showing, then let them be, let them perform. So the starting point is that the resolve on the political side, leadership is very important, and we've seen that in many cases. BOP is one such example I'm very fortunate about. Number 4, there shall be a mutual air of mutual respect. Both parties being on the same page as to the domain of responsibility borne by the members of the political system, and the personnel of the institution. Now, this is very important. The public sector institution and their management must also appreciate the kind of pressures that the political government has, and they need to allowance for those pressures as well, making sure that the line is drawn where you will not compromise on the fabric of the organization, as I said earlier. So within that, remaining within that allowance, you can still accommodate a lots of requests of the political leadership, which are legitimate, which does not impact your business as such, but that will create an air of mutual respect for each other. Now I come to the last section of my talk, and this is about the musings of an air crash survivor and how it influenced my vision towards personal and professional life. By the way, just to warn you, it's 11:15, and there may be a switch over to the electricity. The electricity is not here, the power is not here, and we are operating on generators. So there may be a blip here, but please bear me on this. I have already written a book on this topic called Lee's Breath. It's in printing, and hopefully it will be out in the next 6 months. But there are 10 unique learnings that I would like to share from that book and this whole episode of mine. Number one is that, rituals may not necessarily be the end all and the be all. Rituals are surely important, but it's the good deeds that are the key to your life and are equally important. Number two, there shall be clarity on what you want out of your life and how you want people to remember you, and then set your priorities accordingly. And this group that I'm talking to today is very clear on this particular aspect, because I know you all in your personalities, in your right, are definitely doing something which is impactful. So I would like to be, for example, remembered as a change agent, and perhaps not at a larger scale, but at least in the lives of the people who are close to me. Number three, trust people, as people are generally good people. And this is coming from my own experience, from my rescue post-crash. Those people who brought me out of a very volatile situation didn't know who I was, or or how I can possibly extend some kind of benefit to them. But they still took a chance, and they took me out from that very tricky situation. And I'm extremely thankful to them, and that made me believe that people are generally good people. Tolerance and forgiveness is the key to successful relationships, therefore. Number four, and very important, arrogance is harmful and perhaps the biggest evil which must be avoided and killed whenever it raises its head. Number five, one thing that I religiously follow and believe in without a doubt is to be honest and sincere to yourself and people around you and ones who look up to you. Number six, clear all your dues, keep everything updated, don't keep others' rights and payments overdue for a minute. It's all about being fair with people and your obligation towards them. And trust me, this is not coming from a banker that, I want people to return my money, but it is genuinely what I believe. And more so, frankly, and on a serious note, it is not the financial piece. It's the emotional debts that I'm talking about. If you need to say somebody, I love you, if you need to say that to your mother, to your wife, please do that now. Do not wait for it, as the life may not allow you to do that at a later stage. never ever overdue any of your emotional debts. Number 7, I had never believed in miracles in my life, but I have come to this conclusion after my own situation that miracles do happen. And it is, it is something that we need to keep our mind open about. The possibilities of miracles are very much there, but we need to make sure that we do not rely on them and they remain, and our life is in our hands, and we need to decide on our destiny. We need to decide what our destiny is. Number 8, willpower and courage to move ahead can move mountains. This is what enabled me to recover quickly, focus on my work, and work was a welcome distraction during my recovery, even a lifesaver at times. I kind of say this jokingly that I kind of introduced a new concept of working from home to working from an hospital bed. And 20 days after my crash, I was back to work because that was important for creating a distraction. That was important for me to make sure that my sanity remains intact and is never compromised. Number 9, even big events are God sent and happened on you, but these are the bold steps in life which establish your personality and regain your mental strength. So do not shy away from taking bold decisions in life. Take a chance, move on, try and be more entrepreneurial in your spirits, in your efforts. Number 10 and last one is communication. I realized that it's even more important during crisis. If the pilot would have announced stress, probably that would have been some would have been given some time for precautionary measures to the passengers, and there may be some lives that could have been saved. The communication between you and me today, sharing my experiences, is also do some good after all. This is at least my hope is. In nutshell, I would say that be honest with yourself, honest to others, and honest about everything, anything that you do, including your work and profession.
Great. Thank you so
At
much,
the
Zafar
end
sir,
of the day,
for
at
those
the
wise
end of
lessons.
the day, it's all about empathy, making relationships, and leaving impact on people and communities around you, no matter how big or small. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Zafar Sahab has, of course, left us with lots of to-dos on various aspects of our life, from funding to formalizing institutions and to living life. So thank you so much for that.